shut it down immediately. I have a board meeting I have to get rid of now. There is no, I got you. Shut it down. Now. It does. I don't want to take any chances. When I say do something, I got a board meeting, you say, yes, sir. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
How's everybody?
I'm sleepy. I went for a walk early and I want to take a nap now.
Well, that wasn't a helpful comment.
You gotta get some caffeine, Gina.
I feel good, but I'm sleepy. If I doze off.
I like Herman's background, that nice trees in the background there.
That's just my backyard.
I like that. It's such a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's been really nice today.
Yeah, it was cool this morning though. Pretty chilly, surprisingly.
Hello.
Hello?
Okay, host, I unmuted.
Did Dr. Nancy Hart figure out how to use the Zoom?
Hello?
Put lipstick on.
I'm trying to find the little raise your hand again that I found last time at the very end, and now I don't see it again. So,
I think it's wherever you see the list of participants
Bottom right.
bottom right.
or reaction. It's somewhere down there. No, it's not reaction.
Click on
No, it's
participants
Participants.
Yeah, it's on participants.
and you should see it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Snyder. I'm waiting. I'm looking for Lee. He called me right before this, so we'll see. Oh, there he is. But no sound. Lee, are you there?
I am.
Okay. We still have a minute, so, but whenever you're ready, it's 3:59.
Okay. As Hutch would say, it's we can go by Children's Trust time and call this meeting to order. It's 4 o'clock somewhere. So we'll call this meeting to order, and I need to get to my notes. So if y'all will be kind enough to. So anyway, we'll call the meeting to order, and I think and that I'm doing this by memory, so we could be in a problem. But if everyone's welcome to participate, and there are a couple ways of doing it. One is with the hand raise your hand at the bottom of the screen, or what Colin, I apologize. What's the other way?
They can use the chat function as
There.
well. Yeah. Yeah, hang on. Am I muted?
All right.
No, we can
No,
hear
Yeah,
you.
they can use the chat function to everybody.
Okay.
Do you need me to send you
All
some
right.
notes,
And then-
Lee, or are you good?
No, I'll be good in half a second.
Okay.
The next thing would be I believe we have to do a roll call. Is that correct?
Yes.
For the, okay. Let me get this and I will have it underway. I apologize. Okay, roll call. Do you want to do it or you want me to do it, Colin?
I can read the names. It's fine.
I got it here, so I'll do it. Just signify with the I or the here. Member Certain,
Here.
Member Clark,
Here.
Member Cole Smith,
Here.
Member Cornell,
Here.
Member Hart,
Here.
Member Labarda,
Here.
Member Snyder,
Here.
Member Twombly,
Here.
and Member Wilson Bullard,
Here,
and I'm here as well. So the next thing, the agenda review. So is it any questions about the agenda or any of the information that's in there? If not, we need a motion.
So moved. This is Karen Clark.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. And any questions? There being none, Member Clerk? Member
I
Surgeon?
have a question.
Member Clark?
Lee,
Okay.
Someone had a
Who is
question.
this?
Lee,
Okay,
we have a
okay, I
public.
got it.
Oh, okay,
Who
got
had a question?
I have a question.
Okay.
It says that Colin Murphy's screen is sharing with me. So the majority of my screen is a screenshot of the Children's Trust Zoom meeting announcement. So I don't know why, Colin, it just says your screen is being shared with me.
Because it's the agenda.
Oh, okay, so we can share with everybody. I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
Lee,
Any other
just as a,
questions? That's
G,
fine.
Lee,
Questions are good.
Lee as just as an information, if you put your cursor over the edge of that screen, you can move it to the left and see a lot more people. Some folks may not know that.
Okay. I got like 6 people that I can see. Do you have more?
Yeah, I can get about 10 or more. Just depends on how, put it up in gallery. So you put your view up in gallery, top right, and then you grab that thing grab it and slide it to the left, and you get 3 on the top. You can get most of the board on your screen with the agenda.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions? All right, Member Surgeon?
Yes.
Okay, Member Clark?
Yes.
Member Cole Smith?
Yes.
Member Cornell?
Yes.
Member Hart?
Appreciate where everybody's coming from on this. I'm not.
Member Labarda?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Twombly?
Yes.
Member Wilson Bullard?
yes,
And yes. Okay, so the consent agenda, are there any concerns or any questions about the consent agenda?
No.
If there isn't, then a motion would be appropriate.
Move
Motion.
approval of the consent agenda?
Second,
Second.
this is Maggie.
Okay, all right. Okay, I'm just gonna read everybody's name and y'all can, because there seems to be a lag, so it takes a while. So Member Certain and Member
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Member Cole Smith and Cornell,
Yes.
Yes.
okay, Member Hart and Lombardo,
Yes.
okay, Member Snyder and Twombly,
Yes.
okay, Member Wilson Bullard and myself, aye. Judge, I didn't hear anything.
yes.
Okay. Okay, next item, Executive Director Report. Colin, I can turn this over to you. Colin?
I'm here. Just confirm that it's showing up on your screen. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
What-
So
Yes.
I submitted
What
a
do
written
you
report.
want to be seen?
Yes, we want it to be seen. So I submitted a written
Okay.
report. I'm not going to go over the entire report. Before I go over a few highlights, maybe just to save some time. Did anyone have any specific questions on what I wrote or had a chance to review?
I'm on a children's trust meeting right now. Okay.
No questions from me, from Tina.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any other questions on the organizational chart?
Yeah,
Okay, Colin.
I'll go ahead. I should probably talk about that. There is three things I wanted to talk about real quick from there. I just wanted to point out, based on last time and the feedback I got, first I've hired a finance and administration manager, and she'll start in 2 weeks somehow, whether completely virtually or not. But you might remember Jennifer Rivers, who actually interviewed for the executive director position. I've hired her to be the finance and administration manager, and she was with the police department, and she'll be starting in 2 weeks. So I'm very excited about that. I also wanted to point out, as we get closer to the budget, that'll be due by the end. We'll vote on a budget to submit to the county commission at the June meeting, by the last June meeting. So I took some of the feedback on the org chart, and Karen Cole Smith suggested someone along the lines of family and community engagement. And I have also been considering, what I can do in-house versus what I can contract out. And the way it looks right now, I will probably contract out most of my IT functions either to the county or to a private provider, probably the county. But that would probably save us some money and allow me to add that function into the organization. And so by the next meeting, hopefully I'll have some job descriptions to approve, but that'll actually allow us to stretch some dollars and get more of what we want at the same time. So I wanted to thank Dr. Cole Smith for that feedback. On the contract status report, I think I've signed 2 additional contracts since this agenda item, but we have executed about 16 contracts, I think, to date. I was asked by, I think it was Dr. Snyder, to put together a complete list of where everybody was at given the COVID-19 crisis or the pandemic, and a description of each of their programs. I haven't heard from there's about 6 organizations that I need to hear from. So I'm not done with that today, but I did put just kind of an overview of where everybody's at in my report. And essentially, just about everyone intends on providing some services, if not now, a little bit later. And when it comes to helpful things the trust could do, it looks like I have other requests for extensions. But as soon as I get that finished, I will send that to everybody. I mean, I should have that finished this week, and we can discuss if we need to at the next meeting. And then lastly, the next meeting is a week from today, and it was pretty light what I plan on covering. So when it gets to the right time, I'm going to ask the chair if he would consider a motion to actually just cancel the next meeting, May 4th, and wait till we have a meeting on the 18th. So that's all I really have that's all I really wanted to point out at this time. So again, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Colin, this is Pat. Thank you for pulling that information together. It was very helpful. I recognize there were still some things you needed to hear from people about, but it was really helpful for me to kind of know where things were. So thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Lee?
Ken Cornell has a question.
Yeah, quick question. So Colin, on the report, I noticed that you were waiting to hear back from the attorney with regards to whether or not you could outsource some of the IT function. and I know we're going to be talking about space in the next, maybe the next item. Are we able to use either Amazon or Google, from the cloud's perspective for a lot of these IT items, or is that something that we are not able to do?
The discussion with Bob was actually not only IT, but rather to contract out any administrative service, whether it was payroll or anything. And yes, Bob wrote me a memo giving his opinion, and he thinks we're fine. He was uncertain because in the county ordinance, there was an added item specifically giving the trust authority to contract with the county for administrative services. And one way to read that is because that authority is already given in multiple other statutes, in state statutes, that was a limitation. But he actually went back and looked at the tape and the discussion from the February 17th, 2018 County Commission meeting, and he felt comfortable that we can decide to do whatever it is we want to do.
Yeah, I would suggest that with a small, lean organization that you're going to build or that you're already building, that that's mobile and remote, that you kind of look into Google or Amazon or someone, that can kind of help you set up that suite of communication services and backup services and storage services and all that, as opposed to, a big IT department. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks, Ken. And Ken, just to reiterate, you probably remember that meeting, and there were no limitations really that we wanted to put additional limitations as far as what the trust could do, that they had the ability to outsource. At least that's my recollection, unless you remember differently.
No,
I thought we wanted to give them the flexibility that they need.
Yep, complete autonomy and
Is that
flexibility.
what you recall?
That's exactly what I recall. Complete autonomy and flexibility to do whatever the trust needed, independent and separate and apart from the county commission.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right. Next one would be the lease agreement. Colin, you want to go ahead?
Yes, and this is not a lease agreement. This is really just authorizing me to go ahead and negotiate a lease agreement. And the property is actually the property that used to be owned by the city of Gainesville, that was owned by their CRA, which has been sold to the Partnership for Strong Families. And the partnership has offered to lease us the bottom floor, essentially. And so they have forwarded to me a lease template that we'll work through. But I really just wanted permission to go ahead and go forward with that. And then the eventual lease agreement will be brought back to the trust once it's completed, hopefully by the next meeting.
Any questions?
Do you need a motion on that?
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
then, yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right. I so moved that the executive director have the authority to negotiate a lease agreement with Solution Management Services.
Second.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
10 seconds.
Okay, we have a motion, a couple seconds. Member Surton and Clark?
Hey, Lee, you might, don't forget to ask for
Yes.
public comment. If there's any public comment.
Okay, all right. Okay, you're right. Thank you. Any comments about the lease agreement? Okay, thank you, Colin.
Yep.
Member Surton and Clark?
Yes.
Yes.
Member Cole Smith and Cornell?
Yes.
Yes.
Member Hart and Labarda?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I only heard one. Okay.
Labarda, yes.
Snyder and Twombly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Members Snyder and Twombly, okay. And member Wilson Bullard and myself, yes.
Yes.
Okay, motion's unanimous. Colin, the next item, the notice to explore a decision.
Yes. The best way to describe this next opportunity is essentially would bring in some additional revenue to the trust if it all works out. the Department of Children and Families is the conduit for federal, both Medicaid and Title 40 funds for child welfare. And the legislature passed a law several years ago that gives public entities that also fund some of those services the ability to draw down some matching dollars for services that are eligible. I think, and I could be wrong, but from what I know and from the conversation I had with the DCF consultant, it's very possible that at least one of the services we're funding through the original 3 programs, the family support facilitators, may be entitled to some match dollars. So I wanted permission to go ahead and pursue that with DCF, and then hopefully bring back an agreement to sign that would allow us to claim those match dollars. And once they got to the trust, then we're free to reinvest those back into the program or into another program or any way we see fit. I'll also know a lot more about how this works. And as we go forward and consider funding opportunities, this, may make the difference as far as activities we decide to fund, or not. Any questions?
Questions?
No.
And I don't, I'm out in the boonies now, and I don't see anybody. I just
Okay.
see the agenda. So Colin, you can, if there are questions, please.
I don't see any hands up.
acknowledge them.
Yeah, I don't see any hands up.
Okay.
Colin, this is
Okay.
Cheryl. I can't
All
find
right.
the hand
Okay.
again.
Cheryl Twombly has a question.
Just a quick one. Should I
Okay.
abstain from voting on this since it's a DCF related decision?
I don't know if Bob's here, but I don't see the conflict.
Yeah, you don't benefit in any private way by doing that.
I absolutely
think-
don't, but I just wanted to to clarify that before we went to a vote.
There's no reason that you need to, in fact, you can't not vote. This is not a conflict.
Very
Thank
good.
you, Bob.
There you go. Okay, so we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and second. Members Surton and Clark,
Yes.
Yes.
member Cole Smith and Cornell,
Yes.
Yes.
members Labarda and Hart,
Yes.
Yes.
members Snyder and Twombly,
Yes.
Yes.
and Wilson Bullard and myself. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, and the next would be informational items.
Lee, can I just, who seconded that motion? You
I
did?
think it was Ken, wasn't it?
Tina made it. I think Ken did.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And Tina made the motion, I believe.
Yeah. Unless there's any questions, I don't have really much comment on the informational items, just that everybody's working hard to try to adjust.
Wait, I'm out of here.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, I guess that wasn't for me. So everyone's working hard. I have an update from the Early Learning Coalition. I will say I did participate in the overview groundwater racial equity workshop. If you have not participated into that, I highly recommend it. Somebody, I think it was Dr. Hart, asked me before the world blew up about seeing if we could schedule one just for trust members. If there's an interest in pursuing that, I'll be happy to do that either now or once things get back to normal. But the next one is May 6th. And really the last 2 items, I just wanted to bring to your attention that even DCF has had to make adjustments on things, background screenings and as opportunity, as just things have shut down. Hopefully that'll change as things open up. But those are just some of the items of interest, that you just may want to be aware of. And then our normal update from the Ballard and Partners, which is our lobbyist through the Florida Children's Council. That's it.
Any questions? Okay, then we'll turn over to any general public comments. Colin, do you see anything?
I'm not seeing anybody raise their hand. Let me just make sure. One person has raised their hand. Dr. Marrero, I think it is. Is that right?
This is just a general comment. It really doesn't apply to us, but I was a little concerned about the other people it did apply to. We have one of your grants. We actually, where we are going out and performing services in the schools, and it was supposed to be the Y, but the Y is closed. Luckily for us, we have such a good relationship with the school system, as Clark can probably attest to that, that we have arranged through the councils to do our services through Zoom. But I wonder what is going to happen to those programs which, you know, don't have that capacity, that are, you know, grant funded. You know, for us, like I said, we have an elaborate system, thanks to the school system, to continue seeing children and providing services. But what happens to those that don't have that kind of resource?
I would say that they will have to be creative, just like y'all were creative, to see what avenues are available, and then go from there. Some people may, you know, just may not be able to. They may not have the situation. They may not be as fortunate as y'all been.
Right, I worry about that.
Colin, could you speak to what some of the other smaller trusts are doing with regards to a COVID-19 fund?
Yes, and I'm sorry, you did ask for that. I'm going to include a chart on the next meeting. We just spoke yesterday. So just so you know, any request I've gotten to, as we're executing these contracts, to move funds to purchase a computer or something so people can have some infrastructure, I've done that.
Oh, good.
And the other thing is I have also gotten some requests to use some funds for some immediate needs for programs that already had those in their budget. I'm thinking of our 3 original programs. Now, the thing that I'll ask for at the next meeting is just some direction on how much flexibility you want to give me with altering people's contracts and scope of work. But so any change that we've gotten to where people need to modify midstream to provide some computers and technology and capacity, including one program from UF, the Reach Out program, that has been blessed by me. As far as the other trusts, the other trusts have done a number of different strategies. I'm just going to describe pretty much the 3 most common. Strategy number 1 is, and this was only done by Miami, but it was a pretty big deal, is they made a contribution to their local fund set up by their community foundation and the United Way to administer some immediate needs requests. And that was about, for Miami, that was about $500,000. That's not a lot for Miami. That would be huge for here. But they were pretty much the only one to take that route. In addition, St. Martin County, St. Lucie County, and Palm Beach County have all gone in on a joint application with their community foundation and some of their other funders to take requests from nonprofits that have needs. And that doesn't mean they all get funded. For example, Martin County got specific direction from their board, I believe, that, you know, they didn't want their board to do any homeless things because that was already being funded by other areas or other funders in the county. Palm Beach, on the other hand, you know, they were told not to fund. There were some other types of programs they were told not to fund, so they ended up funding about 25, which again for Palm Beach is not a lot, but for here would be huge. And St. Lucie County has mainly focused on making sure that they actually have funded about $30,000 in special needs And then another 30,000 in some 1 month funding for one of their organizations that was trying to hold over until they got some of their PPP funding. So that's kind of strategy number 2, a joint application process where they accepted applications of various, really all sorts, and they were given some direction by their board on what to consider funding and what not. And then really the third strategy, which has really been our strategy and the Broward strategy, has been to make our current funding as flexible as possible. So Broward has basically continued to fund everybody as long as there were some services they could provide. Although they have put a pause on renewing, this is normally the time where they renew their summer and after school programs. And they put a bit of a pause on that because they're not exactly sure what those activities are going to look like going forward. So before they renewed, they wanted to get some clarity on what exactly it is they'd be funding. One last thing is we have programs that are still planning on doing summer activities as they've described. That could change, but in St. Lucie County, they've already had some of their summer providers say, look, we're not going to be able to do as much. So they have taken some of those funds and moved them towards this kind of immediate needs, rent, utilities, food type funding. So those are kind of the 3 buckets of what the other CSCs are doing. And for the next, I just got that information, really finished gathering that on Friday. So for the next meeting, I don't mind putting that in a chart for everyone to kind of see to make it real clear. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions?
Hello?
I would just say that would be very helpful to kind of have that charted out. I think also if our next meeting is not until May 18th, that will also give us some time to see what the Technical Advisory Committee brings forward with regard to their recommendation.
Hello?
As we
Hello?
talk about next year.
Hello?
That's all.
Okay.
Hello?
Miss Terrell,
Oh, okay.
Terrell and Miss Wilson, I see Miss Terrell Lee. Can
Okay.
recognize Miss Terrell first. She has a comment.
Good afternoon to you all.
Okay, go ahead.
And I had a very brief question. I was wondering if you would be willing to review to consider the idea of doing some creative funding, especially for groups like Star Center, which is a nonprofit organization. We all believe, including Star, that you should try to keep at least 15% of your funds in reserve for future planning and for programming. But no one expected this COVID-19, and from February until this very day, we've used those kind of funds to keep our buildings open just for basic needs. So I was wondering what would be the possibility. I know what we outlined in our application, which we want to continue, but for the reimbursement funding, if we've had to use those funds to maintain operations and to stay open, what is the possibility of doing some creative planning where we could still move forward with our summer plans that we feel like we can execute, because a lot of it would be online and et cetera, that you could open up to nonprofits to move forward this summer?
Tom, how does that fall into the flexibility that we've been trying to have?
Is this the Star Theater?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I spoke with somebody from the Star Theater, and
Me.
that was you?
Mhm.
Yeah, I didn't have a with whatever you told me you were doing, I didn't have a problem with, but if there was additional modifications we needed to make,
I think the question is, where does you're saying it's reimbursement, but you have to have the funds to be reimbursed, so you have to expend the money to get the money. So which means we have to go out and try to buy and create all this stuff and then send you the invoices to receive that back. So I think that the question from here on out is, how do we do that and stay ahead with the COVID and all the other things that, because your programming has changed, because we had to cancel and modify some things. So that income from those things aren't happening. So how do you get around that? Is there, I don't know if this is happening in other counties or wherever, where they give, I guess, front them a couple of dollars, or not a couple of dollars, but you know what I mean. I'm just trying to figure out how do we continue to maintain that.
Okay, so there's two questions. So just so the trust knows, on the issue of capital,
yeah, and I'm not even talking about capital. I'm talking about.
I know, but I want to make sure that the members know. So on the issue of capital, we have about 6 or 7 organizations that had major capital expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
And so the clerk has advised that the way we're going to handle that is we'll just either pay those vendors directly, let's say you're buying a van, or we'll issue a 2-party check where it's countersigned by both the agency and the vendor. So that will prevent agencies from that don't have 75,000 or 50 or whatever the amount was from having to do that. You know, they won't be able to do that. We'll be able to help them there. Now, on the issue of operations and advances, where I came from, which was a different form of government with different rules, we were able to issue an advance. This is not, but this setup here is not the same.
I know.
I have discussed this with Bob. So before I say any more on that, if Bob's still on, Bob, if maybe you could just, you know, for the members of the trust, as far as policy, you know, kind of what are the constraints on the issues of advances, and, you know, and just maybe paraphrase the conversation we had.
Well, the issue with advances is that it's basically pledging the credit of the trust. And that is seriously frowned upon under Florida law.
Okay.
That's why the thought was you make short periods for reimbursement and move that way. It's Todd has a real issue with providing any sort of advances. And we'd have to try and structure it in a way that you know, meets with Florida law. But at the end of the day, you're still presenting a situation where you're pledging the credit of the trust by making a loan. It's not an advance so much as it is a loan.
Okay.
Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Hart has her hand up.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Dr.
Is it my turn? I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
about whether we could do something free or cheap. And since we're in the county, but not really in the county, I'm not sure how we would do it. But I wonder how many people know that if they've lost their jobs, they don't have to wait for an open enrollment period to get insurance through the Affordable Care Act or Medicaid, depending on what they qualify for. And CHIP is also in that group of insurances who allow people who've had a change in their life circumstance to access insurance. And I think some people right now are worried about losing their employer-based insurance. Not only did they lose their job, they lost their insurance. And there are a few remedies out there, but I don't think most people know about them. And the libraries are closed.
Would it be possible? Would it be possible, perhaps, to Ken? Do you think we could put that on the county's website?
Yeah, we just have to send a request to Mark. I don't see any problem with that.
I think that would, you know, that would be, you know, a good way, an initial first start. We could also put it on, you know, a reference on our website to go to the county website as well. Would that, how is that in the direction that you're looking for, Dr. Hart?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think through the community portal, we could just have that, you know, that part of the Q&A too. We just have to get with exactly what Colin, if Colin could just get exactly with Mark what he needs, I think that would work. Good suggestion.
Or what we could do is Colin, you could, or Dr. Hart, y'all could get in touch with Miss Tuck and, and then they go from there as well.
I think Claudia's on the call. I think I saw her.
I'm
So
here.
Claudia?
Claudia.
Yep, there she is.
This is Claudia.
Okay.
Claudia,
Perhaps,
coordinate
Claudia,
with.
could you
Go ahead, Lee.
coordinate with Dr. Hart?
Sure. I was in and out of the room, so I didn't hear the whole thing, but we can get together.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Colin, any other hands?
Yeah, Addison Staples has his hand up.
Okay.
Yep.
Addison?
Yeah, for public comment time, I was just wanted to see if the board or Colin had any update for the kind of the rest of the year as we're all trying to financially plan. A lot of us are in financial kind of crisis planning mode. Is there any indication so we can set forth in our budgets of when a new RFP will be coming out or when any renewals of kind of funding will be taking place and some timelines so that we can account for that in our planning, and would just like to hear the board's comments on what their thoughts are for this, as that would also provide some financial relief for a number of organizations here locally if we knew another cycle was coming out. Because as of right now, potentially some of us will be ending in September 31st, and there's no, there's no plan as of right now of when that will continue, and when the next funding cycle will be, et cetera. So could the board or Colin shed any light on that?
Colin?
Did he say, Lee, did you say me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just having trouble hearing you.
Me too.
I kind of like the board. I think all of you know, because I've mentioned this privately. I'm not for funding anything else new until we have some kind of a plan of exactly what your priorities are. Just to be real frank, we funded something back in January. We have 16 of 40 something contracts issued. And I'd like to get those out and be able to fund those first before we think of anything else. I think at the next meeting, we'll know a lot more because the technical advisory committee will, they'll have a report, and it should become more clear of exactly, where some of the needs are. But what I do feel pretty comfortable with saying is that I would probably, at this point, plan on extending a lot of these currently funded contracts because a lot of them are going to have trouble, just getting started. Yeah. But as far as new stuff, I mean, until I get some priorities from the trust, I don't even know how to answer the question, and we won't even begin to have any of that information until the next meeting. So my tentative recommendation would be that real shortly we should plan on, including those extensions carrying over to next year. But as far as anything new, I think it's just too early at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Cornell has his hand up.
When you get to member comments, Lee, after public comments, when you get to member comments.
Okay. Any other public comments, Colin?
Yeah. I'm scrolling through to see if I see any more hands.
Yeah, I'm on the
Okay.
side.
I don't see any more hands.
I mean, the children.
Okay. All right. So now we need the board members. So Ken?
Called the bank and they gave me.
Thank you, Lee. I just want to make a couple comments. I think I really appreciate Colin reaching out to Jennifer Rivers. I think that's a great addition to this organization. I know we're all struggling with space right now and trying to figure out the new normal, but when we have an opportunity to have space, I think the location you've identified, Colin, is also very, very good. Smack dab right in the middle of the community, which is I think really, really good. And then I just want to say I agree with your comments in response. You know, I think flexibility is the key right now, but just to reiterate my comments from the last meeting, until we kind of get through the next month or two, we don't know how many organizations are going to be able to adapt to a new normal. While we all want to get back to work, I think how we get back to work is going to be completely different than maybe what we envisioned in February. Well, we know that. And certain organizations will be able to adapt and others won't. And so I think it's imperative that we listen to our technical advisory committee, whose recommendations now may be very, very different than maybe they would have been a year ago. Safety may be a higher thing for our kids than maybe we originally thought because of what's happened. And so I'm real interested in having those discussions this summer as we kind of hone in on our quote new priorities with the new normal. So thank you all. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, your observations are correct. Another thing that wasn't said, we don't know exactly what's going to happen on the revenue side. The property taxes, you know, should be, I would imagine, would carry through this next year. But then we have to look at and be cognizant of the fact that what happens this year may be totally independent of what happens in the future, like it was a few years ago. So that's something that, as we make financial decisions, to think a little bit longer term than just this year.
Yeah.
So, any more board member comments?
To that point, commercial rents are going to be heavily impacted, Lee, because the commercial property values are, you know, based on tenant cash flows, and as that dichotomy completely changes, you know, the tax collector is going to have to kind of think about that and advise us on our tax roll. So I think we just need to see where that flushes out.
Any other members, Colin?
Yes, I have a question, or I have two questions actually. Colin, when you mentioned,
Tina?
Yes, it's Tina. Colin mentioned that he wanted to wait before, in response to Addison's question. I have two questions as a follow-up to that. When you said you were, Colin, I think I understood you to say you were kind of in favor of extending the existing grants until we can figure out where we are with the technical advisory committee and then in the current COVID situation. Can you tell me, do you mean just extending the existing award, or were you saying additional funding?
In the RFP that the one with all the contracts that we're trying to get out, it was advertised that the trust may extend them past September 30th.
Okay.
All other year, and right now that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because a lot of those funds aren't going to be spent by September 30th because folks have had to wait before they've done any of their activities.
Okay. And then given that, if there's not a new RFP process for funding, where does that stand? Well, I think I know the answer to this, but with the 3 existing programs that were inherited from the county.
I intend to include those in the budget. This would be their last year. I'm not, I've spoken with all of the programs. And at this point, you know, given year 3, this would be it. But I intend to include those in the budget for the last year.
Thank you.
That it, Tina?
Yeah, that was a clarification for me. I know probably some of the existing programs that we're funding now, that list that was prepared, just having their funds extended and past September 30th may not be a big help to them. You know, that's why I think the question was posed to them, because these organizations are also will be trying to prepare their budget for the next year as well. So I can see where why the question was posed as it was, and so I was trying to get a clarification on that. If Colin was responding to Addison that the existing grant would just be they have more time to spend it, or if he meant that he would just renew some type of funding to them, or recommend that some type of funding would be renewed to them. So,
can I just clarify one last thing, Lee?
Yeah.
Based on it. It's not inconceivable that I mean, you're the trust. You can do whatever you want to do. It's a lot easier to, add funding to organizations that you have existing relationships with than, than to do a whole new RFP at this time. So it's not inconceivable that as we get into the budget or close to the end of the year, that you may look at some programs, especially if they're an after school, depending what the priorities are. And you may decide that based on the priorities and based on what the technical advisory committee determines, that it may make sense to extend, some additional funding to some of those programs. But right now, and you'll see this when I do send out the report, so we have a lot of programs that literally haven't spent a nickel and may not spend a nickel until, July, August. And, so while they're not benefiting now, it's almost like new funding come the next fiscal year, because really there's a number of programs that have just been very upfront and said, look, we're on pause until we know, what's safe and what we can do. So I think there's, at this point, there's just, I want to sound more uncertain than maybe my original answer. There's just a lot you could do at this point, but there's a lot of funds that just haven't been spent at all. And so I just want to be clear on that.
Thank you, Colin. Anyone else? Okay. I think what we're looking for now is a motion to cancel the May 4th meeting.
So moved then to cancel.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Okay. Member Wilson Bullard and Member Twombly.
Yes.
Member Snyder and Labarda.
Yes.
Members Hart and Cornell.
Yes.
Members Cole Smith and Clark.
Yes.
Yes.
Members Certain and Pinkerson.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The next one would be I guess that's it. So I guess it's time for adjournment. So thank y'all very much. And I apologize that my delivery system as far as the internet is not a little bit better. But y'all be safe over the next few until our next meeting. And this meeting is adjourned.
Be safe, everybody.
Say thank you. You all too.
Take care.
No, it did it initially, but then it didn't.